Good morning. What we're going to be looking at today, class, is we're going to be taking a look at today and identify and understand various types of file formats for the web. We're going to be discussing the advantages and disadvantages of each one. The file formats we're going to take a look at today are going to be JPEG, GIF, PNG, and SVG. So if you look at it on the screen here, I have up a PDF file which lists the file format, the advantages, disadvantages, and where this file format works best. So what we're going to be doing here, we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to take a look at JPEG. So I'd like you to go ahead, listen, take notes, whatever you need to do, and let's go ahead and get going. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is JPEG. The JPEG format for the web is a very attractive format for it's a very attractive format for people who design and work on the web. It's a compressed format. Now you may ask, what is a compressed format? A compressed format means that it reduces or compresses the file size down. If you have a file size, say your JPEG is 4 meg, that if you save it out as a JPEG, you can actually compress it down to maybe half that. So your 4 meg file may end up being 2 megs. Now, it's also a pixel-based format. Now, what do I mean by pixel-based format? If you look at the picture I have of the Minions, now the Minions picture, you'll see it's basically a picture which has millions of colors. If I zoom in on this, you will see what starts to happen. Now, the image itself looks pretty good at normal size. When I start increasing the file size, what you will see on the screen, that you start seeing little squares, and each square has a color or colors in it. Now, what is this? This is a pixel-based format. It means that this picture is made up of colored squares. That is what a pixel-based format is. Most of everything we're going to look at today is made up of a pixel-based format. Now, the advantage of this is that this file can be manipulated fairly easy because it's pixel-based. The disadvantages of this is that the file cannot be enlarged beyond its normal size. If you look at trying to enlarge this image, as I was doing, look what happens to the quality. A JPEG format cannot be enlarged much beyond about 100 to 110%. When you start enlarging it, you start pulling the pixels apart. When you pull the pixels apart, guess what happens? You're separating the detail, and you start losing quality, you start losing clarity, it starts looking fuzzy, blurry, different things like that. That is one of the disadvantages of a JPEG. Now, also looking at a JPEG, another disadvantage of it, it is a lossy format. Now, what is a lossy format? A lossy format is basically every time you work on the file and you save it, what happens is every time you press that save button, you lose detail. It's basically a throwaway format. JPEGs are good for compressed files, but the problem is every time you work on it, it loses detail. So eventually your nice, clean, crisp image is going to be fuzzy, it's going to be unclear, it won't be suitable for print, it's not going to work very well. It works best with gradients and photographs. Photographs like the Minions, a photograph of a house, gradients, anything that supports thousands or millions of colors is where the JPEG format works best. You will find this format is used very commonly when people are emailing files across the internet. is because, again, it's a compressed format, so the file size stays small. Now, moving on to the next file type. Now, the next file type is called a GIF format. Now, a GIF format is basically no more than 256 colors. Now, while a JPEG is millions of colors, I mean, you can support, as you see here with the Minions file, there's millions of colors, thousands of colors in here, which provides clarity, detail, etc. Looking at the GIF file hits a limit of 256 color. So guess what? After that, you have no other colors. That's it. So it limits at 256. But that's probably one of the disadvantages of this format, is that it's a very limited color format. Now, one of the advantages of it is it's a lossless format. Now, the lossless format means that I can save this file, I can work on it, and I will not lose clarity, detail, quality, unlike the JPEG. This is also a pixel format. If you look at my image here, I'm going to pull up my Photoshop file. Now, my Photoshop file, you see, is of a GIF format. Now, the GIF format, as you see, limits you at 256 colors. So you see you don't have a lot of colors. Now, keep in mind, I know that this is basically white, gray, and maybe some beige colors, but you see the quality just really isn't there. When you look at it on the web, here's one of the things that is really, really cool about working with GIF files. GIF files was one of the first file formats out of the gate when the web started back in the 90s. GIF formats are basically animated, as you can see on the screen, that you can animate a GIF format, and more commonly you can animate it in Photoshop. And basically you see that you can create a cute little animation of these mice, these stuffed animals, you know, moving their butt around. Another cool part about working with the GIF format is that there is a transparency function on this. The transparency function is shows because there's no background. Looking at the Photoshop file, you will see that there's a checkerboard background. Now, what does that checkerboard background do? That checkerboard background means that background, there's nothing there. There's no color, no nothing. So the advantage of that is you can put that on any colored background, and on any colored background that will show, you won't get the white box. On some images, you'll get a little white box around it because it does not remove the background. The GIF file removes the backgrounds, allowing you to blend the image or images into the color of the page, which makes it a very attractive way of doing things. Now, where does it work best at? It works best with logos and line drawings. You know, it works best with images that are more Illustrator-like. Let me open up another one here real quick, and I will show you another one. Let's say it works best with Illustrator files. Now, you see Illustrator files here. This is a little illustration of a cookie, of a chocolate chip cookie with glasses on. Now, this works best for that. It won't work best for the Minions because it doesn't support all the colors that the file has. So let's recap on that. It's limited at 256 colors. It's a lossless format. It's pixel based. It really works well with logos and line drawings. And the big thing is transparency and animation for this file. Let's take a look at the last one. Now, the last one is called SVG. An SVG is a really cool format because what it does is it provides you a vector formatted image. Now, what is a vector formatted image? A vector formatted image is basically an image that is drawn. It supports drawing. That the drawing part of the format keeps the lines, the details clean and crisp. If you looked at our pixel format, as it got larger, it did not. The file format got pixelated, blurry, etc. Vector formats do not do that. Vector formats give you the ability of clarity. If you look at this, this is a line drawing or a drawing of a logo from Illustrator. If you look at it, look at the clean, crisp edge on it. Let's take a look at another one. I have another one here, guys. Let's take a look at this one. Now, this one here, again, if you look, it's a vector format. Now, the vector formats, the vector formats are calculated through a mathematical format. That's how they are able to retain their quality. They are not pixel-based. They are not based upon little squares. So this is one of the advantages of this. It provides you a clean, crisp edge. The quality of it is excellent. Now, it does, and one of the advantages of this, it also provides and gives you a smaller file. Now, what is one of the downsides to this? Well, the downside is you cannot really use this for photographs, anything with millions, thousands of colors. It doesn't support it. What it works best with is logos and icons. If you notice that I pulled up the picture of the bird, and then I pulled up a picture of the cookie. And both of these basically are logos / icons. And this is where the SVG works best. So if you have a logo that is clean, you want clean, crisp viewing on, you want to save it as an SVG format. But now again, it will not. Continuing on with our understanding our various file formats and the advantages and disadvantages of each, we're going to continue on and look at JPEG, GIF, PNG, and SVG. Continuing on to this, what we're going to do in this part is we're going to take a look and we're going to reaffirm what we just learned, and we're going to look at how to save the file also. Now remember, we did talk about a few minutes ago about a JPEG format. It's a compressed format, which means it makes the file smaller. It's a lossy format, which means that it looks at removing data every time you save. Now, the pixel format means that it is made up of little square pixels. It also works best with gradients and photos. Now, let's take a look at how would we save a format like this. Now, we would open up a program very similar to Photoshop. Now, if you don't have Photoshop, there are similar programs out on the market which will do the same thing. In Photoshop, you would go to the File menu, and you would do a Save for Web. This format specifically saves the file for the web. This is the best way of creating a web file. You click on Save for Web, and it will bring up right now an additional dialog box. Now, the additional dialog box you'll see gives you additional options. In the upper right-hand side, you will look at and select the format. The format, you'll see we can save as JPEG, PNG, GIF, WB, MB, which we're not going over. However, we are looking at JPEG. Now, the JPEG has a quality level setting. You'll see that the JPEG now, if you notice in the upper right-hand side, is now looking at different levels of quality. It says JPEG high, JPEG high simply says that the quality of the file is as high, is as big as it's going to get. Now, the problem with anything that creates a larger format is larger file size. That's going to be the problem or the issue. So as the quality gets better, your file size gets bigger. Now, the end goal on the web is to create web pages with images that are of a smaller file size. Images with smaller files, or images on them, actually load better. They open faster. There are a number of advantages to this. So it's basically a balancing game with the Save for Web. Now, if you don't need or want a high format, you can go to the right side of the screen. There is a setting that says high. If you click on the little arrows next to high, I can now set a high, very high, maximum to get the best quality I can from the image. Or if I don't need a good image, I can go to low and medium. Now remember that the lower the quality, the smaller the file size. But the lower the file size means the quality of the image is not going to be as good. If you want to do a comparison between the original image and the final image, Photoshop gives you on the left side, it says 2 up. If you click on the 2 up tab, what it does, it shows you what the original file is going to look like on the left side of the screen. Then it shows you on the right side of the screen what you've chosen, the settings you've chosen, and how it's going to look. So by changing the settings, I essentially can change the quality or the look of it. And right now, I have a very good comparison of it. So this is a great way of looking at comparing to see exactly what you're getting before you save. Now, if you're not sure, still, even after going through the 2 up settings, in the lower left side, you'll see a preview button. Clicking on the preview button will now allow you to open it up in a web browser. And the web browser will now show you what it will look like when placed on a web page. And so if that was what you want, then you close out the window. You go back to your Save for Web window, go down to the lower right side, and you click on Save. Then you go ahead and go to Save As. You pick and choose a area to save it to, and click on Save. And that now saves it for the web. Now let's take a look at now the second option that we looked at a little earlier is GIFs. Now let's recap what the GIFs do. The GIFs max out at 256 color. So the problem is with this is that this photograph may not be the best for it because it maxes out at 256. This color or these colors in this image basically are probably thousands and millions of colors. So we're going to open up another file that will support GIFs. Now what I've opened is I've opened up a Illustrator file in Photoshop. Now the Illustrator file you'll see is a perfect format for this because if you remember it only supports 256 colors. Well, there's less than that in here. If you look at the woman with the red hat, there's just way too many colors for this to work properly. With this Illustrator file, what you see is I have less than 256, so this will work fine. Now remember, it's not a lossy format, which means that every time I save it, I'm not going to lose quality. And again, it's a pixel format, which means that every piece of color in here is set up in a little square. It also supports transparency. Now remember, the transparency option simply means that it will remove the white background from the image. So I can put this on any colored background that I want. You know, anything that I use to support my web page, let's say my colored background's blue, yellow, green. What I can do now is I can now put that on a yellow, blue, or green background, and guess what? That it will actually show the background. So that's a nice part about this. Let's take a look at how do we save this image for GIF. So let's go to File, and again, let's head back to Save for Web. Looking at the Save for Web, you'll see that it now gives you the original file on the left side. This is what my file looks like in Photoshop. On the right side, it is portraying a JPEG. Now, we don't need a JPEG. We already looked at JPEGs. So we want to go to the upper right-hand side, click on the drop down next to JPEG, and we want to select GIF. Now, when we select GIF, if you remember when we talked about GIF, it only supports 256 colors. You will see to the right of the GIF formatting, you'll see it says colors 256. That is the maximum amount of colors that it will support. Going down underneath the color table, you will see about halfway down, there is a large square with a number of smaller squares in them. The smaller squares contain different types of colors. These colors basically are showing you what colors are in the file. Every color in that big, large square is in that file. So it's showing you what exactly or what colors you are getting. If I want to reduce the amount of colors that are in the file, now remember, by reducing anything, you are actually making the file smaller. But on the flip side, what could happen is that you could actually then make the quality of the file go down. You could make it be worse. Let's take a look at, and let's see in the upper right side, it says colors 256. If I choose 128, 128 reduces the amount of colors. Now, what colors it's reducing, does it affect the quality of the file? It looks like no. You'll see that here it does not or is not affecting the quality. The left side shows you what it originally looks like. The right side says this is what it's going to look like on the web. It's basically pretty much looks the same. But as I keep knocking down the amount of colors in the upper right side, from 128 now to 64 or to 32. Now eventually what's going to happen is I'm going to remove so many colors that it is going to start affecting the quality. So you see now on the right side that the quality of the file is gone down because I have lessened the amount of colors in the file. So you can affect the quality. But the upside is that you're actually reducing the file size. So that's the advantage and disadvantage of the color part. You can choose up to 256, or you have the ability of controlling how many colors are actually shown in the file. I'm going to leave it back at 256. Now it does give me a larger file size, but if you look at it, basically the file size is not that big. It's a 17K file. If you think about it, your Word documents are probably larger in file size than this GIF is. So again, it's not a big deal. Again, if you want to take a look at the quality, you can go ahead and go to Preview. And you see that if that's what it looks like, then you're good to go. Now remember, with the GIFs, it supports transparency. If you look at the right side of the right side of the image is showing you what it's going to look like. I can turn on or off that transparency. There's a box on the right side that says transparency. If I uncheck it, it will put back the white background. So if I want the white background, I can simply just uncheck it. If I want to get rid of the white background and use a colored background, I can check the box. So it's simply my call on that. Down at the lower right side, it talks about image size. What size do I want my image? Now I can make it 50%. I can change different settings on this. I'm going to leave it at 100. I'm going to click on save, and then I'm going to put it back to desktop. Now if you look at GIF does not have to be animated. GIF does not have to be transparency, but that is what GIF is known for. You know, that is what makes a GIF a GIF. So if you're going to use a GIF, make sure that you're using it in the proper way with a transparency or an animated or an animated file.
Okay, with Photoshop open, let's go ahead and what we're going to take a look at here this afternoon is we're going to take a look at working with, and we're going to open up and resave different types of file formats. The file formats we're going to be looking at are web formats. We're going to be looking at JPEG. We're going to be looking at SVG. We're going to be looking at working with GIFs. We're going to be looking at several different types of formats for the web. So we're going to look at and go to File under Photoshop. We're going to go to File, Open. And then we're going to go to File, Open. On the desktop, if you could please, go to the folder that says School Lecture, if you could please. Then what we're going to look at is opening up the file called Woman Red Hat PSD. If you select it, and then click on Open. Everybody got that? Katie and Carolyn, you good? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at saving this file as a JPEG. Now a JPEG file is a file which is a compression or a compression-based file. So we're going to take a look at doing a save as or save for web. So if you go to File, Save As, I'm sorry, if we go to File, Save As, we're going to save it and then replace it. Now we're going to go to File, Save for Web. Let's go to Save for Web. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to create a web-ready image. Now the web-ready image is going to be a JPEG. Now remember, a JPEG is a compression-based format. Now to save for the web, you go to the upper right side and you click on the PNG 24, or I'm not sure if you have that up there, but whatever your drop down is in the upper right hand side, it should be JPEG right there. If you can't find it, let me know. I'm going to come by and help you. You look at JPEG. And if you look at your saving schemes in the JPEG, you have quality settings. Under JPEG, you will see there are settings for low, medium, high, very high, and maximum. These are different types of quality settings for the JPEG. Depending on what your quality level is or what you're looking for depends upon your settings. The lower the file save is, the lower the actual file itself. So if I save it as low, the quality of the file is going to be very, very poor because there won't be a good quality format. By clicking on medium, high, or very high, takes me up on the ladder. So essentially, my quality of my image could get better when I am in the very high or maximum. The only downside to that is it increases your file size. Anything where you look at a larger file size or a better quality is going to look at having a larger file size. When you pick and choose the file size you want, you can go down to the bottom on the right side and choose the size. I can choose the width and the height or the percentage. If I want to preview it, I go over and on the left side and click on preview. And as you see in preview, it shows me what the file is going to look like on the web. So if that is in fact what you're looking for, then all you do is close out the browser window, and then we click on save. If it's not what you're looking for, then you go back and make adjustments with the quality settings. And if you're good, you click on save at the lower right side. You'll see it says save optimized as. Go down in the lower right side, you click on save. Click on replace, and you're good. Now we're going to save this as one more format. We're going to do one more file with this. We're going to take a look at saving it as a PNG file. Now a PNG file is a higher quality format. A PNG file was used to replace GIF at some point in time, but you're not. PNG files are excellent quality. However, the problem lies with the size. The size is very, very large. So you trade quality for size. Let's save this out as a PNG. So let's go to the File drop-down menu and do a save for web. And with a save for web, in the upper right-hand side where we selected JPEG, click on the drop-down arrow and select PNG. If I click on PNG 24, you'll see that the PNG format does not give me a lot of options for quality. If you notice with the JPEG was actually a better quality, give me quality settings. I could set from low to high quality. Pick and choose exactly what I want. The PNG does not require us or does not let us do so. So we pretty much have to take what we get. Now if we go down and if we want a transparency background, we select it. Moving down, you'll see that it now is an image width, height, and percentage as usual. Over on the left, we go ahead and click on Preview. Now, if you noticed, you will see that the PNG is a 281K file size, which is large for a web page. If this was going on a web page as a PNG, it would be almost too big for it to render properly. So we would have to probably either A, save it as a JPEG, or B, reduce down the size of the picture somewhat. Go ahead and click on and close it in the upper left side. And then let's go ahead with our preview, click on Save. And we're going to save it as a PNG. Close.